First of all, Edie, thanks. Thanks for that introduction, and thanks also for scheduling me after Tony Harrison. Much appreciated. I always wondered what it would be like to be the poet who has to follow Pindar in a competition, the guy who has to deliver the speech after Cicero sat down, so now I've found out. So thank you. And of course, what all the speeches tonight have demonstrated is the degree to which classics, the study of that incredibly ancient world, remains a completely living tradition, and it confirms what, of course, is, I'm sure, the gut instinct of everyone here, that the head of a great and famous higher educational establishment like Royal Holloway, who can contemplate closing its renowned classics department, is in a sense, not to be too melodramatic about it, the harbinger of a dark age. And since it's one of the claims of ancient, medieval history, all history, that it can hold a mirror, however distorted, up to the present, I thought that I would go back to an earlier dark age and see what lessons we might draw from that for our own present day. The first guy I have chosen is a rhetorician from Ravenna called Vilgard, who was thriving in the 950s, the 960s, and he was a figure of high suspicion. He was, a chronicler of the time tells us, deeply learned in the art of grammar. His study of it was ceaseless, not just frequent, and that was not meant as a compliment. And in fact, so puffed up was Vilgard with his study of the classics that he, unsurprisingly, proved easy prey for demons. One night, 3 of them appeared to him in a dream in the form of Virgil, Horace, and Juvenal. Not surprisingly, they tempted him, and Vilgard, shockingly, in the words of the chronicler, began arrogantly to preach against the holy faith, asserting that the sayings of the poets should be believed in everything. Not surprisingly, this brought down the wrath of the Bishop of Ravenna on Vilgard's head. He got sacked from the school in Ravenna, but he apparently carried on preaching, and teaching, and his lectures remained highly popular with the good folk of Ravenna. Now, I want to go north now for my second exemplum to the Saxon Abbey of Corvey. Saxony, of course, never even belonged to the Roman Empire, but it was there that a guy called Wittekind was writing history of the Saxons. Incredibly useful source for anyone interested in the history of medieval Saxony. But from the point of view of classicists, what's fascinating about it is that he opens his history by stating his firm conviction that has grown up recently among the Saxons that they are in fact the descendants of Alexander the Great's army. And Wittekind, to do him credit, he's not entirely sure about this, but he's obviously so intoxicated by the idea that he might be the descendant of a bona fide Macedonian that he bums it in his book anyway. So my first 2 candidates are people who clearly had a passion for classics. My third is a collection of people who were rabidly hostile to it. These are the abbots of the great Burgundian Abbey of Cluny, who essentially regarded the classical world as a source of high danger. There was one abbot, Maelus, who refused point blank to read a single text by a pagan author. There was another great abbot, Odo, who had a dream, again in which Virgil appears. Extraordinary the number of dreams that people are having in this period when Virgil pops up. But in this one, Virgil is even more sinister. He hands a copy of the Aeneid over to Odo, who reads it and suddenly discovers that it's turned into a hissing ball of serpents which are rearing up to bite it. He drops it and wakes up. Now, what lessons might these have for us today? There is a real possibility that the teaching of rhetoric in the 10th century was not just a renaissance, it wasn't a rebirth, it was something that had been continuous, that had reached right the way back to the authentic native traditions of late antique education, and by implication, right the way back to the golden days of Rome and Greece. And if that's true, then it means that the line of descent that Greg Wolfe was talking about from Royal Holloway today back to the University of Bologna, might actually be even older. There might be a continuous line of descent. You academic classicists might have this authentic, genuine link to the world of classical education. It's a possibility, a thrilling possibility.